Well, we are excited to have Arda with us today from Central Nervous Systems. Arda is an expert in all things MISys manufacturing. And if you've seen some of my other videos, you may know me. I'm Lance, inventory software expert since 2006. And we look at all kinds of inventory management software programs and help small business owners find the right inventory management software. And we have a wonderful partnership with Central Nervous Systems. And Arda is a key implementer for MISys. And so if we find that MISys is the right software for you, Arda will most likely help you implement MISys. And today, he's graciously consented to show us the key features in MISys and kind of give us an overview of all the main features in MISys. We're not going to dive into details on this. If you'd like to purchase a proof of concept or an assessment and dive into further details with that. But hopefully this video gives you, a good overview of MISys. And I should speak a little bit more about Arda. Arda has an MBA, if I remember right. Very educated in accounting and business and engineering, actually. Is what the MBA was in. And I think that's what led you to manufacturing mainly, right? What type of engineering was it again?
I'm an industrial engineer, and then I did an MBA just to round off the engineering with the business side.
Yeah. Yeah. So not just experienced in MISys, but very experienced in accounting and manufacturing and the whole manufacturing workflow. And Arda, you worked for a company that used MISys as well.
Correct. In the past, I
so,
worked for a client. Yeah.
so you don't only have the perspective of an implementer and a helper, an advisor, a consultant, but you also have the perspective of a user. So you know what it feels like to be a user.
Yes, actually, Central Nervous System's motto is "We feel your pain," because
Right?
all of us come from operations backgrounds. So we have been where you are now as the implementer, and we feel your pain, and we're trying to make sure that you don't have to suffer any of what we have suffered in the past.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that reminds me of what it was like when I first worked for Fishbowl. That's how I got my start back in 2006, working for Fishbowl. Man, I wanted to pick the computer up and throw it out the window. I did not have an easy time just learning Fishbowl. I did not have the patience for it. That patience was developed over years.
Yeah.
But so the outline we kind of like to follow to keep the presentation making sense is create a sales order, and that sort of creates the demand for the finished good, and then create work orders, and that sort of fulfills that demand and creates demand for the raw goods. And obviously there might be multi-level work orders, or excuse me, I should use the term manufacture orders in MISys, and then create a purchase order to fulfill the demand the manufacturer order created, and then go through fulfillment as well. And if we deviate from that, forgive us. Sometimes when we're in the thick of it, it's like, oh, it kind of makes sense to talk about this right now. So, but yeah, we want to talk about both order creation and order fulfillment. And there's a sales order, manufacturer order, and purchase order. And so we're going to cover sales order creation and fulfillment, manufacturer order creation and fulfillment, purchase order creation and fulfillment, but not necessarily in that order. We're going to talk about EXT too, MISys, which is EXT stands for extension, and it's MISys mobile app. So, Arda, it's your turn to talk. I talk too much.
All right. Should I start by sharing my screen?
Yeah. How about you share us your screen and show us how to create don't show us how. Sorry, this is not a tutorial. This is a demo. Just demo the creation of a sales order. And this is going to be surprising because it's not in MISys.
Correct. Sales orders are created directly in the accounting software, whatever accounting software you're using. And MISys is able to integrate with QuickBooks, Sage 50 US or Canada, Sage 300, Sage Intact, QuickBooks Online or Desktop, and also as Central Nervous Systems, we have built integrations for clients that use other accounting softwares we will build the customizations for those integrations. But in this case, we're going to use QuickBooks desktop version for our demo. And in QuickBooks, you can simply go to your dashboard, click on a sales order, select a customer from your customer list. You have your date, you have your sales order. You can enter a ship date and simply pick your product that you are selling, enter an order quantity. Let's maybe get 10 of these and maybe another item. We can put 50. We can maybe have 12 of these being sold. And that's as simple in creating a sales order in QuickBooks.
So just like that. Yeah. And you selected a desk lamp, but I want to point out that the main people I refer to central nervous systems and MISys are those who do heavy manufacturing. We have customers that manufacture tractors, manufacture sweepers that connect to the front of the tractor. We have a customer right now that also does farming equipment that connects to the front of a tractor, stripper header with a lot of levels of bills of materials. So MISys is heavy manufacturing. I just wanted to point that out since the example was like a desk lamp.
Yes, that's true. That's the standard item
uh,
that comes with MISys sample data.
yeah, a real example would be something more robust, like over 5 levels and 50 bills of material to manufacture what it is you're doing. So let's create manufacturer orders to fulfill the demand and maybe show us the manufacturer order screen, but also show us the screens that help us decide what manufacturer orders to make, because I think that's a powerful part of MISys is the planning tools.
Correct. Very true. Very true. So we have multiple options on how we want to create manufacturing orders, one of which is going to our production menu and selecting process sales orders and allowing MISys to connect to QuickBooks and pull the sales orders that are in QuickBooks. So we are not entering the sales order into MISys, we're entering it into the accounting system, in this case, QuickBooks, and then we're able to pull those in. And you'll notice each sales order has however many line details it has. I think I just created 21 right now during this demo, 10 pieces and 12 pieces of these items. We are able to go and create manufacturing order or work order. These are two different types of productions orders in MISys, and we can later on delve into the details of the differences between them. But you're able to create orders directly from here just by selecting the line, selecting the location, and saying, create a manufacturing order.
Okay, so that's one way, and that sounds like more of a onesie twosie way to just sort of, create this one, create this one.
Correct. You pick and choose which of the sales orders you are going to create a manufacturing order for. And that might be due to the fact that some of your sales order items are make to stock. So you're not going to create a manufacturing order. You're just going to ship the stock over to QuickBooks or your accounting system. And for some of these, like this one, you're going to create a manufacturing order where the manufacturing order is created with the customer name, sales order number, ship date, and the quantity. Then allows you to populate it from the BOM, bringing all of the information directly inside the MO.
All right, and we can tell which screen we're on by looking at the top left-hand corner there. So that's one way to create a
Correct.
manufacturer order. What are the other ways?
So the other ways, obviously, you can go manually create it yourself by going to production and manufacturing orders and saying, create a new manufacturing order. In that case, you're having to copy all that information, which is not the most effective or efficient way of doing it. The main way is the planning module and master production schedules, where you can actually bring in more than just the sales orders, but other demand signals as well. What I'm referring to is if you have any forecast or if you have any safety stock requirements, then MISys will take all of that into consideration and do an overall planning for you, identifying when you are running into shortages while you're trying to meet the demand that's included in your demand signals, and then suggest that you create manufacturing orders, or let's call them production orders, as well as purchase orders to resolve the shortages for your purchasing requirements.
So this screen you have up on it's called the Master Production Schedule, and this tool helps the user leverage all the data in the software and get a recommendation to tell them what manufacturer orders and purchase orders both to create.
Correct.
Right? The same tool does both manufacturer orders and purchase orders, and it could do either or if they choose, right? You can just choose.
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
Up
just
to
give
the
me
client.
that makes more sense to me is to first put the manufacturer orders in, get the demand in there, and then run it again with purchasing orders. Is that kind of the logic?
Yes, that's very much what we usually recommend our clients. We actually sometimes go one step further and we say, let's go ahead and create a schedule for our finished good items, and then normalize that schedule, make sure that our capacity is able to meet that demand, move those manufacturing orders around if we need to, and then go and create a second schedule for your sub-assemblies. This way, the sub-assemblies will be scheduled based on the finalized finished good manufacturing order schedules. And then once that is normalized, then go and run a third MRP schedule for your purchase items so that it is looking at all the manufacturing orders in the system, both the finished good and the subassembly, and identifying when the requirements for purchased items are due and creating the purchase orders based on those finalized dates.
Right. Something else you said stood out to me. You mentioned forecasting and safety stock, which I thought was cool. Very familiar with safety stock and alert level and maximum levels, but not a lot of these small business software programs include any sort of forecasting. So that was interesting. You mentioned that as well.
Yes, MISys will allow us to create a forecast. The forecast, again, you will have multiple options in creating a forecast. It can be manually entered, it can be an Excel upload, and or it can be a direct forecast based on your historical sales from your invoices. You can actually say retrieve sales forecast and give a date range or an invoice number reference as a range. And then you can tell MISys, okay, bring all of these in and then offset them maybe by 1 year. So if you're pulling last year's invoices, you can say offset it by 1 year and scale it by 10% because this specific item group that I'm pulling the invoices for, I think this year I'm going to do 10% better in sales. So then MISys creates a forecast for you, looks at May 1st, 2023. Sorry, today is May 2nd. May 2nd, 2023 invoices and says, oh, we invoiced 10 of this item, 15 of this item. And it's going to create that as a sales schedule for May 2nd, 2024, because I'm offsetting it by 1 year and increase those quantities by 10% and tell you, now this is our forecast. We need to manufacture these items to be ready by this May 2nd date.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. A lot of times these small business owners need to purchase a plugin for that type of feature and plug it into the inventory management software. So it's nice to see that this is actually part of MISys.
Yep.
All right. So what are we doing here?
This is what just created. Obviously, my test database doesn't have all that many invoices. Apparently, I have only 3 invoices in my database.
Yeah.
But it took an invoice that was dated 11/17/2023 for 2 pieces of I-50 item and says, oh, now you need to get it ready for transfer to sales by 11/17/2024. So this is now my forecast. And then I have 3/22/25 and 3/19/25 for a different item. Oh, actually, this is I-50, the same item. So this is what your forecast is. And once you save this, you're able to then include it as part of your MRP schedule that you are creating in the master production schedules by posting that batch, that scheduling batch that I have created, which is my forecast.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So did we create purchase orders or is that the next step? I can't really tell.
No, we haven't created any purchase orders. Again, similar to the manufacturing order, you have the option to create the purchase orders manually if you want, or you can simply use the MRP module and create them from here. You can determine what's the time horizon that you want to plan for, right? We can say, okay, maybe I'm going to look into a 2 month or a 3 month planning horizon. And shortage basis referring to our safety stock. I can set it to minimum. I can select alternate locations, bring in sales inventory and sales orders from QuickBooks. So these are my demand signals that I was referring, the safety stock,
Mm-hmm.
sales orders, and we save and initialize, and then we post the batch. That's the third demand signal, which is the forecast. Once all of that comes in, MISys is able to look at each day and say, do I have a shortage when I'm trying to balance supply and demand for that given time date for that given item? Do I have a shortage? If it does, it looks at the item. If it is a purchase item, then it's going to say, hey, you need a purchase order due this date. If it is a manufacturing item or a make item, then it's going to say you need a production order for this day in this quantity for this specific item.
Right. And I like the cutoff date too. That's applicable to a lot of people I've worked with where they've got demand and sales orders and manufacturer orders scheduled out like 3 months ahead, but they don't want to purchase for that demand yet. So you can put a cutoff date there and say, just consider the supply and demand in this date range. That's powerful.
And here we have a whole bunch of items that are showing up in red. These are the items that are in shortage that MISys thinks we need to do something in the system to resolve these shortages. And you can go and simply audit these items to better understand what is wrong, what is causing the shortage, and then go and resolve all shortages. It'll just do it in click of a button. It'll resolve all your shortages.
So while I was talking a minute ago, you did a lot of clicks and kind of went fast and ended up on this screen. What is
So
what is
just
this
to rewind
screen?
it here for you to see, this
Sure.
is the schedule that we've created.
Uh,
We've determined a planning horizon. We selected a 3 month period. Our start date was today. We selected 3 months from today as the end date. What this is telling to MISys is if there are any shortages after 8/2, August 2, ignore them. Do not try to resolve those shortages. That's what the planning horizon is about. And then we decided we're going to include shortage basis of minimum, which means at the end of each day, I'm going to try to leave each item whatever their minimum stock is set to. Each item has a different minimum stock level or can have a different minimum stock level. And MISys, based on this parameter, is going to try to leave the item stock at that level.
so I get that. I
Mhm.
understand all that. We
Okay.
went over that. The part that I missed is you clicked on a bunch of stuff while I was talking and then ended up on that screen. Were you just like executing it
Yeah.
basically and saying, hey, show me the recommendation?
Yeah.
Is okay. So then we can go back to that other screen now. I understand. So this screen right here is the result of the previous screen. This is what it's recommending that we need to buy. And the red means we're short on that and we need to purchase it. Okay, so we've got item numbers, descriptions, location numbers. I'm expecting to see vendors. Maybe that's on another screen,
Mm,
but
yeah. You won't see the vendors here.
oh, sorry, what was that?
You won't see the vendors on this
Oh,
screen.
you
This
want
is
to see?
just the shortages being identified and the
Okay,
reasons for those shortages being shown.
I see. And if you scroll down, as some of these are gray and white, the gray and white, does that mean you're not short on those items? You're okay?
Very correct. Yes.
Okay. All right. So this is sort of a visual saying, hey, you're going to be short on these. And you've got a screen across the top with dates. So is that telling us when we're going to be short?
Yes, so it will be a graphic of how the activities are in the system. When you look at items, it's going to tell you what is your basis quantity. Basis is referring to the shortage basis. So for this FG 1001 item, my minimum level that I decided to keep my safety stock is at a 400, right? And my first short quantity is 275. I have 125 available in stock. This line here It's
Mm-hmm.
showing me 125. This is the zero line. Currently, you have 125 and there is no other activity happening on this item. The only reason it's showing up on the shortage list is because you don't have the required 400 minimum stock available. It's going to want you to produce 125 more to get you to that 400 level.
And going back to the graph up top, if there were some activity, like a manufacturer or a sales order calling for that, then that line would go across and then dip down and go across, right? And then if you had a purchase order coming in, it would dip back up on the day the purchase order is forecasted to arrive.
Correct.
Sometimes it's difficult to show these things in just a little demo database that doesn't have all this activity in it. But I can see now that when you select another item, the view up top changes, right?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So then what if we just want to accept all the recommendations? It's saying you need to, is this recommendations for both manufacturing and purchasing?
Yes.
Okay. So if we just want to accept all these recommendations, what do we do?
First, we resolve all shortages. So MISys goes and calculates what do I need to do, and if there are any warnings, it will display them. On any errors, it'll display them. So here, for example, there is a requirement for an Elite 230 hull, which is a manufactured item, but it's saying that you don't have a bill of material in your system, so I don't know how to build this item. So it's not going to be able to resolve that shortage. What I am being told as a planner is please go create a bill of material for Elite 230 hull so MISys can build it, right? So there's a lot of no bill of material warnings here. And then another one here saying that 32 scheduled activities prior to today, meaning you were too late to run your MRP. You have a lead time, let's say 5 days lead time, and something is due today. So you're going to be late on that already. So those are the warnings that you receive if you haven't been using the MRP and planning properly.
And for users that are watching this video that are new to MISys, MISys has a little checkbox in the item screen or the product screen that identifies whether or not it should have a bill of material, whether it's an assembly item. So it was saying, hey, you said this should have a bill of material, but it doesn't. So that's a thing there. So because they don't have bills of material, the item type is an assembled item type. And the software is saying, we're going to leave this as red because we can't build this because you have no bill of material. And so this is just going to remain unresolved until you fix the problem and go give it a bill of material or go uncheck that box and say you need to buy it or say it's okay to buy it.
Correct. You can make decisions that are make or buy decisions. That would then require this item to have a qualified supplier where you can buy this item from.
So the combination of this screen and the previous little window that we saw makes up the planning tool or the manufacturer order creation tool and the purchase order creation tool. These two tools combined, these two screens combined, help you create manufacturer orders and purchase orders. And I see you're pointing to create MRP.
Yes.
And I think you've called this an MRP tool in MISys, right? It's
Yes.
what you call it. Okay. Learning the terms here, a
Yes.
planning tool, an MRP tool. And I could see why it would also be called MRP because P is the main part of MRP. So planning and MRP in MISys is basically the same thing.
Yeah, so they merge master production scheduling MPS and MRP material requirements planning into the same module to make it a lot easier for the users to be able to use the same infrastructure, same functionality to plan their production and their purchasing. So the same person can go through all of those steps and they look exactly the same, the screens. It's just the items are changing. And as a result, what's changing is whether you're creating a production order or a purchase order. So,
and for those of you that are new to these concepts, MRP stands for Material Resource Planning. There's different types of resources that you can plan. The resource it's focusing on here is materials, which is inventory. So planning your inventory, focusing on the dates that it's going to arrive. First of all, focusing on shortages in general. But notice on the line, the third column from the right, it says first short date. Like it tells you when it's going to become short. That's kind of where the planning comes in, where MISys really shines here. And just with our little table lamp demonstration, it's not showing us the dips and rises of the line. It's just one straight line across. Okay, so yeah, let's create some manufacturer orders and purchase orders, and I think it would be good to see what the printouts look like the printout of a manufacturer order, what the people on the shop floor look at, what they use.
Absolutely.
Printout of a purchase order, what the vendor is going to see.
So we can create our purchase orders here if we want. Again, you'll get a warning if an item that we're trying to purchase does not have a qualified supplier. MISys says you haven't told me where I can buy this from, so I don't know who to issue the purchase order to. Similar to the bill of materials, MISys is basically saying you got to do your job first so that I can do mine.
Right.
We have to make sure that these are in the system. Here is the menu or the screen, which tells us all of the unique SKUs that do require purchase items. And as soon as I select one item, the details in the bottom changes to show me what is the required date and what is the required quantity. I can go through all of these and audit them if I want, and I can buy item or buy details, or just simply click buy all and create here it allows me to, because it's going to automatically create purchase orders for all of these shortages. It's asking me, how do you want me to select your supplier? And here are the criteria. It's telling us or asking us, put that into a priority order, right? In this case, yep.
I like this feature. This is a good feature. You can set the preferred vendor, but then you can override it. You can have multiple vendors assigned, and yeah.
You can say lowest price is my main priority. Go to the lowest price. And if there are two vendors and they're both the same price, then it says, I'm going to check to see if there's a preferred supplier. And if there is, I'll go with that. And if not, I'll go with the fastest delivery and so on. So I determine my shipping location. I can just hit create orders. You can make a backup if you want, but as simple as that, within a few seconds, depending on how large your database is, you are going to create purchase orders. Here, we're getting the shorter order lead than specified, meaning our due dates, in this case, in the background, you can see that the required date was 5/2, and this item probably has a lead time that's more than the same day delivery. So you're getting a warning saying you're trying to place an order, but it's not possible to get it
today.
Yes.
It's not possible to get it today. So this kind of leads us into the next feature in MISys that I think a lot of us are interested in. And that's the features that help us reschedule. So we created manufacturer orders that we didn't really schedule. We just took the default date, which is today. And obviously that's unrealistic. But now the software is saying that they're going to arrive on a specific date. I can't remember what those dates were. Would the next logical step in this demonstration, Arda, be to go reschedule those manufacturer orders?
Correct. I mean, in this demo, we're not really running through that three-step MRP process that I was referring to originally, where I wouldn't have created the purchase orders as the first step. I would have created the production orders for finished goods first. And here is asking me now to create production orders after the purchase orders. So that's why we tend to go finished goods schedule as a separate schedule in MRP, and then the sub-assemblies, and then the purchase orders. But it really doesn't matter. We can just click build all here and build a bunch of manufacturing orders.
So you're saying we didn't do it in the right order and we made a mess.
No, it's not a mess. That's the way MISys defaults to creating a purchase order first and then going through a manufacturing order, because it's doing everything in one go. So there is no more difference. If you're running a single step MRP, there is no difference between which one you create first, because the system ran through the requirements and identified already when the shortages happen, for what date they're due, what quantity, what item. So it's just going to create those orders, and it doesn't matter if it's the PO that comes first or the MO that comes first. Whereas if you break it into 3 different schedules, now you're running a schedule, creating your manufacturing order for the finished good, let's say, and now going and normalizing that schedule, making those changes that you're referring to, moving them backward and forward. Now there's a set schedule for finished goods. You go run your sub-assembly schedule. It's going to be based on those finished good MO schedules that have been finalized.
Okay. So you're saying there's two different types of ways to do this, a two-step MRP or a one-step MRP, where you do each step manually. And in the multi-step MRP is it does each step for you automatically. Is that right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, automatically and manual is a bit up for discussion, but
Semi-automatic, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You always need the planner's input in here, because sometimes you identify there is a requirement for 5.5, like May 5, and another one for 5.7. Well, do I really want two MOs or two POs, or do I want to merge them into a single one? MISys allows you to do those, but it says, hey, let me know how you want to do this. So it always gives the planner the control over these decisions.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. Well, I was about to make a joke earlier when I said, so we made a mess. And where I was going with that thought is, well, users never make messes, right?
Never.
Never, right? So my thought was making a mess is realistic and cleaning up the mess is a realistic demo. So if we made a mess, then I'm not worried about it, because then we can demonstrate how to clean up the mess, you know? And the mess I'm talking about is we weren't careful about our scheduling of production, and we just went with the default. So I'm kind of exaggerating by saying we made a mess. It's just we didn't schedule production. And so now that we know when things are coming in, it is now a good time to show us how to schedule production so our production starts after the parts arrive.
Yes, so here what we're looking at under the production menu in the production schedule is a Gantt chart of all of our manufacturing orders. Some of them were created with the MRP run we just did, and some of them already existed in the system. And we see some of these older ones sitting here that they hadn't been processed, not created with the MRP, but you can actually drag and drop these and say, oh, well, I can't go back to April or March 28th and do this. So I'm going to have to do this in future dates. So this is similar to what you would do after an MRP run. For example, these orders here have been created with the MRP, and these all seem to be created because of our minimum, our safety stock levels. We didn't have enough on hand available. And once you have a safety stock requirement set, MISys says you need to have that available now. So it creates a production order or a purchase order due today. Well, sorry, this one is going to take a few days, or if not a few weeks. I need to move this. It might start today, but it won't finish today. So we need to move our orders as we see fit, based on our capacity, on what we can do with these orders. And then we save that schedule. And again, you might get some completion date issues here, but you'll get your warning. Be aware that this is, again, a demo database. It's not really kept up. So we're getting a lot of these warnings under normal operating conditions. You should not expect to get these warnings if you're keeping up with your MRP runs on a weekly basis.
And if we had it all set up right. Yeah.
Correct. So we have made changes to the schedule and we have saved those changes. Now our manufacturing orders have a more accurate start and end times based on what we can do in our organization. So if this was the first MRP schedule that we ran for our finished goods, now we would go run it for, say, subassemblies. And the subassemblies, for example, that FG 1001 requires would know that they are needed on May 3rd. So the subassembly manufacturing order would have a completion date of May 3rd, because FG1001 is going to require that. And then if that is, when we create that manufacturing order in the MRP system, which would complete on May 3rd, then it would look at its start date and say, whatever the start date is, May 2nd, let's say, that's when your items are due. That's when I need to bring the items that are required with this, provided that there is shortage, that I don't have them on stock available. So then the purchase orders will be created with a due date of May 2nd in that case. These dates I'm using as an example are not good because they're not supposed to be due today. So when you do MRP, you're looking into the future and planning for the future, and those PO dates and MO dates are more realistic rather than being right on top of us.
Thank you for joining us today on our deep dive demo. Make sure to see the next one. We decided to cut this because we were going into further detail than we thought, so we're going to break it up a bit. Be sure to click on the link to see shop floor planning and capacity planning and other features of MISys Manufacturing.